From the Times Center in New York City, City University Television, in association with the New York Times, presents a Times Talk series with editors and writers of the New York Times. Today's presentation, a conversation with Julianna Margulies, Times interviewer Bill Carter.
I'm Carol Olsen-Day of the New York Times, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this exciting Times Talks. Tonight's guest is one of today's most accomplished and versatile actresses, and an Emmy, Golden Globe, and Screen Actors Award winner. The many characters she's created for TV, stage, and film are always exceptional for their emotional range, their specificity, and their diversity. She's currently starring in the hit CBS television series, The Good Wife. And she recently received both a Golden Globe and a Screen Actors Guild Award for those performances. She will also be seen in the new comedy called City Island, playing an entirely different kind of wife and mother. It's about a New York family who experience the comedic unraveling of their shared web of lies. And it co-stars Andy Garcia, Alan Arkin, and Emily Mortimer. The film won the Audience Award at the 2009 Tribeca Film Festival, and it opens next month in theaters everywhere. You'll hear much more about her and the film and The Good Wife in just a moment, but first I'm delighted to introduce our moderator. For 30 years, he's covered television for the Times with a sharp eye and a cool head. An expert on what makes the industry tick. He is the author of the bestseller, The Late Shift, Letterman, Leno, and the Network Battle for the Night. He's also written Desperate Networks, a look at what really happens on the set and behind the scenes in the high-stakes world of network TV. So please join me in welcoming our moderator, Bill Carter, and our very special guest, Julianna Margulies.
This is great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Wow. That's great. Thanks, everybody, and welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. I guess we just heard all the great things that are going on with The Good Wife and a Golden Globe, SAG Award, and are you having a lot of fun?
It's been a good year.
I guess so. No, I mean, I don't know what you thought when you were pitched the show, but it's certainly working out great. I mean, do you have an idea why it hit so fast? Or?
Well, I think it's timely.
Well, we know that.
And, you know, it's interesting. When I first was pitched the show, I wasn't that gung-ho to do it. Because it was either going to shoot in Vancouver or in Los Angeles, and my home is here, and I have a baby and a husband, and, you know, I was looking for a job in New York where I could be an actress living and working in New York. And when they sent me the script, they said they were going to be shooting it in Los Angeles. And I said, I think it's great. Thank you anyway. I have to find work in New York. And then the tax incentives came back. And they said, we're going to make it work in New York. Will you still do it? And I said, well, the only way I'd love to do it, I'm very nervous to do network television. It's very hard to make 22 home runs of anything. I was looking for cable because I felt like I had more artistic freedom there. But I met with these writers, Robert and Michelle King and Ridley Scott and David Zucker, and I was mesmerized into finding out what would happen to her. And I'm sure like everyone else, have judged all these women, watching them on the podium or not on the podium. And, you know, in my own head thought, what would I do? And I thought, what a great opportunity to be able to play this role. But my biggest request to them was they had to find the right husband, because I said it had to be much more like a Bill Clinton type and not an Elliot Spitzer type. You kind of want her to, you know, I wanted her to sort of have the chance to want to be with him.
Well, I guess we can understand that. But you were aware of the other cases then. You had seen them, the signs of the wife standing behind the guy, all those various things on the news. You
It's
were aware
interesting,
of.
I became much more cognizant of it when I saw. I'm not much of a news junkie. I find that things run on a 24-hour loop and really are saying nothing. So the rule in our house is the rule in our house was always watch the Jim Lehrer NewsHour because you'll actually learn something and be well informed. And all of a sudden, this Elliot Spitzer thing happened, and that's when it was because I had seen Silda maybe a year before.
Really?
And it was that unbelievable age difference within a year standing behind him. She looked so vulnerable and downtrodden, and I could tell she wasn't there. She was like above somewhere hovering, going, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like she wasn't in her body at all. And I became mesmerized by it. And when I got the role, I started looking online at before and afters of all the wives. Mm-hmm. And that's why it was so important in the pilot. We hollowed my cheeks out and gave me lines, and I said, I need to look like I haven't slept in, months.
Yeah.
Because the whole world's only finding out now, but I've been, she's been aware of this for too long.
Right.
So I found that, and then you look at them a year later. I mean, I saw Vasilda Spitzer in this Vogue article. She's on top of the world. She's never looked better. She's, running a hedge fund. She's found who she is through this tragedy, and I'm fascinated by it.
So is that informing how you're playing it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of different elements to her. I think there's a lot of Jenny Sanford in her too. I mean, it's not based on one person. She's not Christian, right? But Jenny Sanford has her own specific views of things. But I think Jenny Sanford is incredibly a respectable woman who said, "Well, I'm going to go this way." Everyone goes their own way. I mean, how can you blame or fault any of them? Right. Now that I'm realizing what it's like to be in their shoes, in fantasy life.
Well, your character has to be sort of in pain and vulnerable, but also angry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all kind of in the mix, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, and it's lovely. I mean, the beauty of doing television is that you have the luxury of time. In a film, you would have to see the beginning and the middle and the end right away.
Right.
And instead, I get to sort of peel each layer off slowly. Because there's also, there's so many facets to the character, which is why I love my job, which is, yes, anger for sure, humiliation, finding her own voice suddenly, being successful at what she's doing, still trying to be a mother, also being in love with him. People forget in the eye of the storm, you say walk away, but you forget that this is a woman who is madly, deeply in love with her husband. Right. So, there's a lot of strings pulling, and I think it's a very important, it's a delicate balance to play. And
that makes it kind of rich. I mean, you have a lot of...
Oh, my God, yeah. The beauty of television, if you have a technique and a training, is that you get to rely on your gut instinct because you don't get to do it a gazillion times, so you don't really wear it out. And there's something... I've embraced it because the process of rehearsal I love more than anything. But with television, you're playing this character days in and days out for years, hopefully. And so you spend time with them, so I don't need that time that I would need in a play or in a film because I am playing this character daily. What you do need is a tremendous amount of concentration and preparation. And there isn't a night that goes by at my house where it's, my work day might end at hour 14 at work, but then I go home and I spend 2 hours with my script and I have to break it down. And I always feel like that's what I get paid for is to be able to break down a script and understand the lines that aren't written. And the writing's so good. When writing is good, it's not that hard to act. When writing is bad, it's really hard to act.
Well, it's hard to do anything well, I guess, in the show.
But I think the writing really spoke to the character and to the moment, so it came quite organic.
But are you kind of making her really distinct from Silda Spitzer and all the other people? Like making her stand out in a different way.
The truth is, I've never heard Silda speak. I've never heard any of them speak.